is already declared. Don't need to do it again. So pi is equal to, what is the value of pi? 3.14, right? F. And then double, TOUBLE double, sorry, D equal to, say, 12.22D. Right? So see how variables are first of all declared. What type of variable you are using? It is an integer, it is a float, double, and then initialization. You give a value to that variable. It holds the value 10. It holds this value 3.14 in a float value, and this is a double value. Right? So this is how in Java we use variables. Right now, in variables also there are three things. One is local variable, one is static variable, and one more we have local, static, and instance. There is one more thing called instance variable. Right, so now let us write a small program using the above three variables. Say you have declared a class called Java variables, right? Now, when you declare that variable here, say integer a, right? This a becomes a class variable. Sorry, class variable or instance variable. This is also called class variable, right? If we have declared just below the class, see outside of the main method, we can close the main method like this, and plus sign will come. We can open also. So just after the class, inside the class, not inside the method. If I declare see there is a variable a inside main also and outside main in under the class, right? So if it is under the class outside the methods, then it is called instance or class variable. This will be accessible by all the methods, right? And then this variable, this and this, the names are same, but this is a local variable, only accessible to main, only accessible to main method or any other method, right? To local main method. Now, say I have main, right? It closes somewhere down here. Now I'll create one more method, public void m2, right? So one more method I'm creating. Main is one of the method for execution. We need main, but we can have any number of methods in the class, right? So here I can give another variable called int a, right, equal to 10. This is another local variable for only for m2. Anything inside m2 can only access this a, and this a can be accessed only inside main, but this a can be accessed throughout, right? So this is just for removing the confusion. This I will say class or instance variable, right? So this instance variable is accessible for all the methods in the class. Right now we will have a one more called static variable. Just give the name static int x, right? So what's the difference? This and this are both are under the class, right? But one has a word called static. So static makes this variable as immutable. So now when I use this variable somewhere, right, say for x equal to 10, this x equal to 10 value will be retained throughout, right? During the execution, x will always contain the value 10. It will not change. even x, you initialize x equal to 10 here. Here also x will contain that value 10, right? Here also the value automatically, if I print inside this, it will print the value 10 because it is a static variable. SYSO x. What is the value? X, right? Because I have declared it as a static variable inside the class, but then in the main method I gave a value to 10, and then I'm printing in M2, right? So if I run this program, right? What happened? Instance variable X. Okay, so let's not use it here. Let's give a value here and save it. And in M2, I am printing it. Let's just stop here, right? Okay, Chrome driver initialize. What happened? Oh, I have to run this. Something has gone wrong again. This is a very basic program. Class, main, static, right? And then you have to use M2 method and we are printing it. Why it is not stopping at all? Should stop somewhere, right? Let me execute this. It's not doing anything in the console. Just a second. You have to fix this. If you don't fix it, you will always get confused. So if I print A here, okay, I think there was some execution going on. Yeah, see now I am able to print the value A, and then if I print the value X, 10, right? So again it here also, wherever you do, right? Oh, it is not entered. Why? The reason is our class is executable through main method. So if you have a main method, then only main will get executed, right? So if you have to execute this M2, what you have to do? You cannot execute M2. You can write any business logic inside this M2, and then you have to use an object of this class to call M2, right? So you have to create an object of the class M2, class Java variables, and then inside that, using that object reference, only we can call M2, right? So we will go ahead and do that. Say, because that's just a method, right? So take this class name. Always you have to access the methods and data and information using variables. Java variables JV equal to new Java variables. Close it. Now using JV dot M2, right? See, now I'm able to call them, right? So this was your OOPS concept yesterday we studied. Any method or any data holded by the class can be accessed only through objects. So create an object, and now we have printed A. This is means local, right? Right, local. Then this will be your static, right? And this will be local for, this was local for main. I'll give a different value, right? So here 12 I'll give, and static, right? So let's copy this 2 and use it here so that we get some difference. So local for main and this is local for M2. So A will print 10, here A will print 12 and static will always print wherever you go. Static will always be same. So just run it. See here, local for main 10, static is 10, local for M2, variable name is same, but it is printing 12 because it is local for M2. So 12 value it will retain. And then again X, if you see, X is coming from the top. X is a static variable under the class, right? So these are the three things. One is local variable, one is static variable, and one is instance variable. Instance variable is a non-static variable. Why do you want to make all the variables static? We don't need, right? Static is where the value will not change. It will be retaining the last available assigned value. But here we can keep changing that value. So we have not declared this as static, so we can change the value of that instance variable. Right now, these three things are done. Let's go ahead and now inside this class main method itself, we'll have now data types, right? What is a data type? Data type is the type. We already have seen A is an integer, pi variable is a float value, D is a double. So there are data types. How many data types we have? Primitive and non-primitive. Data types, there are two data types, primitive and non-primitive. What is primitive? Primitives are, if the Java virtual machine is giving, primitive, right? JVM provides like integer, float, I already told you, double, right? So these are primitive data types. Non-primitive, non-primitives are which the user creates, programmer created. You guys are programmers, so programmer created variables, right? Like array, right? Strings, all these things. These are all non-primitive. Programmer create. JVM does not provide this. These people create for their efficiency, for their like convenience. When I am saying convenience, all these primitive data types, integer, float, double, and all, right? They are the core of any programming language. Anywhere you go, even if you declare a non-primitive, which the programmer creates, also internally uses the primitive, because primitive is where the memory is allocated. Integer, it takes some memory. Like double, it takes more memory. Float, it takes in between integer and float, right? So character. So all these different data types have different memory allocations by the JVM, right? So now let's go ahead and talk about array. Very important concept, array. So we have learned what is a variable. Variable is an object, you can say, which stores the information, a value, say 10, 3.14. So float value, 12.2D. So all these values in memory, it will get stored, right? So this, to give a name to access that value from the memory, we give a name. So that's just a reference, name reference. We are giving A, Pi, Pi, or whatever name we have given, D. So these all are the name of the variables to access these values, right? And then now we'll come back to array, which is a non-primitive and most widely used, right, data structure. We still have some limitations with array, but array is like also very widely used. Say for example, what is an array? Array is a data structure which stores similar type of data is a data structure which stores similar type of data. And what do you mean by similar? An integer array will contain only integers, a float array will contain only float, and a double array will contain only double. We cannot store mixed way, we cannot store. So that's the limitation, right? Array, integer array will always allow you say integer x equal to new integer of 10, right? So we are declaring. Let's see, that's an array. Integer x equal to new integer 10. So what it is doing, it is creating a new array for me called, you can give this name integer array, right? Integer array, and the size is 10. So this also involves the same two steps, declaration and initialization. So you are assigning some value to that in array, but there is a catch here. If I don't do this, right, if I don't specify the size, it will throw an error. See, it will say value variable must provide either dimension expression or an array initializer. So that is the limitation in Java, that an array always needs to be defined and declared and defined. You have to specify the size of the array. So now what it does, you in memory what it does. Let me open Excel. I'll show you what it does. So in memory, what it does is int x of 10, right? We created a variable, an array of size 10. So what it does, it creates memory location. So 10 memory locations it assigns. So 2 to 12. Right, so here now we can store 100 or 1000, whatever value, 50, 20, 1001, and 222, 33. We cannot store 33.33. Why? Because that's an integer array, right? We cannot store that. 101, 20,000, and then 12 and 0. Right, so this memory is allocated by JVM if I create an integer array of size 10. Right, so this how JVM manages. You can see. So what is the drawback? Drawback is even if I am storing only one value inside this array, I remove this, right? I remove this, it will still hold these memory locations for this array. So what is happening? Your memory is getting wasted. So array, if you say the size 10, you have to block the memory. JVM will block this much memory for the 10 values, right? So what this is a drawback, right? Why? Because I'm not going. If I'm not going to use all these remaining 9 locations, memory is getting blocked. So if I declare so many arrays like this, all my memory will be empty, and other resources will not be able to use it. So we'll go back and say, if I now, this is a drawback. Drawback is memory is fixed. Cannot be, does not change if added or removed. Right? So we declared a variable array, int array, which holds 10 integers. So what we will do? We will now assign the values. Int array, okay, and then we will equal to integers. We will assign 10 values now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Right? These are the 10 values we have to. What is this? Array constants can one. Okay, these are, I mean to say, not the correct way. So how we have to assign? Int array of 0 equal to this, like that. Int array. Other initial programming languages was allowing like that. Int array of 0 equal to 1. Like this we have to assign now. Right? Like so 10 times you have to repeat this. I'm using Mac for Office, so my keyboards are all mixed up commands. So 1, 2, whatever, 1000, whatever number I give, there also you can use just for our understanding purpose, we'll give different names, values, 9, and then finally one more 10. So what happened is we declared an integer array of size 10 and then we assigned 10 values. Even if I don't assign, I told you right like this, it will block the memory location and keep it empty, right? So this is an empty, so memory is being wasted. So lot of memory is wasted, right? So this is how the arrays are, I mean to say, used. There are very certain cases where nowadays people use arrays, but since because of this limitation that the memory or the length of this array is fixed, people have moved. So they evolved. Programmers who developed Java, later on they introduced so many other data structures which are dynamic. Like during requirement itself, if you don't require, release the memory. If you require, add a new memory. So if now we'll see how do I loop this, create a for loop, right? So I want to print these values, right? I have just assigned them. I want to print this. So I'll do a small loop. This is called a loop structure in Java. Int I equal to 0, I less than, what is this? Now we have to give three conditions in for loop. First, initialize a variable, give a condition, and then the incremental condition, right? So three things are required for a for loop. So for I equal to 0, I is less than the int array dot length. So what is the length of this? It will automatically consider here dot see length, right? And then I plus plus. If I do this and then say SYSO and print the values of int array, what happened to this? Oh, sorry, this is not required here. So int array of I, right? Now we will move this to a different class. Instead of doing it here, that was for variables. We will create one more. Keep creating so that it will help you. Okay, array test, right? And then put it inside this one. So now the same thing, integer array which has a size 10, we assign the 10 values to the array, and then using this for loop which has three conditions. I equal to 0, we are using a variable to iterate over this array, and then we are going to print it, all the values. So let's run this. So it all printed the value 0. Why? Why did it print 0? First it printed 10. Why? Because see, I have by mistake I have given integer of 0 only. I have kept it 0, 0, 0. That's why. So I did not change the index. That is why. 6, 7, 8, and 9. Since the index starts from 0, we have to go till 9 only. Though our total length is size is 10, we have to, since it starts from 0, right, we can go only till 9. If I try for next, right, it will not work. It will not get an error, but it will not print or anything. See, now it will throw index out of bounds. While execution, it is saying you have a length 10, but this is an additional. The index 10 is an error, so you cannot do it, right? Because the maximum values we can store in this integer array is 10. We are trying to access the 11th one, right? See, it is starting from 0, so count this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So 11th, there is no option in 11th because our total size is 10. If I change to 11 and run it, obviously it will run and print the 11 values. So both of them have 10, 10. So the last two values also got printed. But our length is 10. So we'll just stick to 10. This is not allowed. So this will array out of bound exception will happen. Because it is saying you are trying to go out of the boundary of the array. So you cannot do that. So this is how arrays are there. Similarly, we can create the arrays for float values, arrays for double values, right? So we can go ahead and do that also. Now, uh, now tell me if this integer array is a local variable or a static variable. What is the answer? I'm asking you all. Is integer array a local variable or an instance variable or a static variable?
Local variable. Instance variable.
Static
No,
variable.
Instant.
no. It is just local to main method,
Local variable.
right? Local to main method. So where is the picture of static? Static will always come under the class, outside all the methods. So you have the main method here, right? And if I have one more method here, public void m2, right, it will do something. Then another public void m3, this third method, let it do something, right? But whatever is coming outside of these three methods are called instance or static. Instance will have the static will have the word static in it, in static x, right? And sorry, yeah, int static x equal to 10, right? And sorry, static int. We cannot do int static. Static int, and then say int y equal to 20. So this is your static variable because it has the word static. Very simple. Any static variable or methods also can be static, which I will talk later on. Static will always have the word static. Static means fixed, right? And this is instance. Instance is it's a class level variable, right? These both are class level, but since this is having a word static starting with it, so it becomes static variable. And this is instance. All the methods can access these two variables now. In this cannot be changed, value cannot be changed, and here we can change the value. X value always will remain 10 only. So that's how you have seen an array inside the main method, right? An integer array. So this integer array is local to main method. We cannot print here. Now I use the same loop, right, and try to print in M2. Right, let's open this main and print here. See, it will say, what is this int array? It is throwing red color array. What do you mean? Int array cannot be resolved to a variable. So it is saying I'm not able to identify this person, this thing. Int int array. What is it? I don't know, because it is local to main. It is not local to M2, right? But now when I declare this integer array outside of the main, right, I will copy it and declare it outside of main, right, and not, you can comment this, right? So now what happens, it is here also. Now what, see, cannot make a static reference to the non-static field. Now since you have declared an integer array, you cannot since this is outside, right, outside the main method, so it is simply saying, okay, change it to static, because you are assigning values at the class level, right? Class level variables are accessible by all the methods. Right now it is saying please change to static. Now if I change to static, you can assign the values only once. So if I am assigning the value inside main, it will always retain these values inside that array. It will not change it. Now if I print this, it will print this 10. If I print it here, it will print. So same results you will get. See, 10, 2 times it printed, right? It printed for this, and it to call this function, we have to create an object. So create an object of class and then access the M2 method. So what is our class? Array test. Always to access the data and information, we need to create an object, right? We know that. Array test A equal to new array test. So this is how we create objects. We know that. Now A dot M2. Right? We'll simply call that M2. So now if I run the same values 2 times, it will be printed. See, 1 to 10 and again 1 to 10. So we now, since this was a variable declared outside the main methods, it is accessible to both main and M2. So both main and M2 are able to access this array, integer array, right? So this is how your arrays work. But what is the limitation? The limitation of array is you have to always initialize the length of the array. So it is, memory is fixed. It keeps the memory in the JVM will allocate the memory, and whether you use or don't use, it will retain that memory location. And that's the drawback, because of which the programmers of Java who developed Java came out with advanced data structure like array list, right? So this is how one problem gives solution and creates something new. So now what is the solution? We'll create one more called array list test, right? Same thing, right? The problem was that was with array, right? We will just copy paste the same thing. It will help you to understand also. Now where it is, yeah, from here till here, right? Loop is same. Loop will never change. Loop is the same concept. So now I am declaring an array, but this is not array list now. So this how there is a different process to declare array list. So how do you declare? So what you have to do, list, and then what is the type? I'll tell you. Type array list equal to new array list. Little complex for non-programmers, but slowly you will get hold of it, don't worry. Type and then close it. So what happens? So you have to now import this. See, this is the way how an array list is declared, right? List type. What is the type? Integer, right? Then here also same integer. That is the placeholder for your type. What type of values this array list will hold? And then there are array list class, and the parent of array list is list. So we will import the java.util, not the java.awt. So that is an older version of list class which was in Java AWT package, but we have to use the Java util one. And then similarly array list for java.util, right? So this is how an array list is declared. To overcome the drawback of the array which has fixed memory length, right, as the memory is getting wasted, so what people thought, what the programmers thought, why don't we start thinking about making it dynamic, right? So they came up with this array list where memory is allocation is dynamic. So there is no length to be specified. We are just saying we are creating an array list of integers without any length. So now array list is created. So there is no length. So what will happen if you see this Excel? This was creating this much. Now this array list does not create any memory location until you don't add anything to that. So how do I add now value? ARRAY array list dot if you do, you'll get the methods add. So add the value to the array list. So I will add 10, right? This will get added because this is an integer array list, right? So you are able to use integer. If I type some value, say string, will it allow? No, it will say the method add integer in the type is not applicable for a string, right? Simply it will throw. So Java is very smart. Automatically, what is happening here? You are not even executing the program, but your interpreter is the one which reads line by line, right? Interpreter in the JVM, what it is doing, it is trying to match the argument of this method. So add is a method which has to take integers only, so it will not allow any other value. So if I do float also, see 10.12, it will again throw an error. It will say it will not allow double. If I say like float, it will say still double because float is also extending double class, right? It will not allow. So only integers are allowed. So I've added one element. So let's add some more, right? I add 5 values, right? Say 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So these 5 values. Now since this is drawback, there was a drawback with integer array, right? So we will remove this. Now array list, we will use it. The loop structure will always be the same. Okay, so the loop will not change. Only thing value change will be this. So the array had a method called length to find the size. Here it will be, if you put dot, you will get size. You will have to use size, and you don't need to give any index. Just you can see the advantage of array list is SYSO, and then you put this itself will print. You don't need to give a loop also. But in case you have a complex array of strings and other things, to have more control, generally people use for loop. So now I have added, I will print, right? Save it. It prints the values 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. See, it is printing in array structure. It's giving a bracket, right? Array looks like this with a bracket. I am holding this 5 values. Now I printed this. Now I will remove this. Say I will remove. There is a method to remove also. Remove. Right? Now I removed one value from the 5 values. So what happens if you run? It will print only 10, 11, 12, 13. What happened? Index out of bound because this is the index. You have to remove, not by array list remove. See, if you highlight this, the method, it is taking object. It is not applicable for argument 0 or something, right? So remove the first element, 0th element, right? You have to use index. You cannot use, say, I want to remove 10 because there is no 10th index. Only 5 indexes are there. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Only 5 indexes. So I have to remove using index. So now if I remove using index, what will happen? You will get only what happened. I have not printed, right? I have to print after removing also. So this will be before removing, right? Same thing. I will copy paste and print it after removing. Now if I run, see what will happen? You had 5 values earlier. 10 is gone now because the 0th index starts from 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 0, 10 value has been removed. So again if I remove one more, right? Say I remove the last value, right? I'll give the 4th index and then I print it again, right? So after second removal, remove, right? After first removal and after second removal. So if I run this, what we got? Index out of bound, because after I removed, see, it's very interesting, right? After I removed the first value, I have only 4 values. So 0, 1, 2, 3. I don't have this. So I'll have to use 3, right? Now see. We had this array. I removed the first value 10 and now I remove the last value 14. Right? So interesting, right? So now what is happening? The memory is not blocked. There is no length at all specified. Did we specify any length here? No, we did not specify any length, right? And we can add conveniently whenever required. I add one value and let the array contain only one value. I add 5 values, the array will hold only 5 values. And in one more disadvantage of array was there was consecutive memory locations allocated. So this memory was, say, memory location. How is memory location identified in Java? Some reference is given. So there is a concept called bucketing, right? In bucketing, what it does, it gives a memory location. Where to read the value from? So some long numbers it will allocate. But the disadvantage of array is it will give consecutive memory location 10002. Now, so it will give like this. It will hold the memory like this. All these consecutive memory locations will be allocated so that the JVM will be able to retrieve the values, right? When we have to access this variable, it will go to this memory. When we have to access this indexed value, it will go to this. So consecutive memory is allocated, but in array list, it will be random. So say array list I have created today with 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, right? We had 5 values. So it may be in one memory location. This next may be somewhere else. The next may be somewhere else. So there is no fixed memory or consecutive memory allocated. It will be somewhere here in memory, somewhere here, here. But obviously we need the reference of those locations. So it will keep the reference of those locations so that the user, whenever the user or the program is asking to fetch the first, go to this second value, go from here and bring. So these are all the memory locations, but it will be dynamic and there is no length specified, right? So how the problem of those unwanted wastage of memory. So now this has been resolved very nicely by creating an array list, right? Array list has so many other methods. Array list has so many other methods like integer, like you can again add using index, right? Add all, you can together pass on collection and add together at one shot, clear it, right? See, remove all the elements from this list. Direct method is also there to clear everything. Contains, to validate something, contains all, whether it contains all the list of values. So all these methods are available. Get, how do I get, right? So now I removed it, right? And now I want to, what happened to this? Okay, here. Now array list dot get, right? See, get will give you the index 0, right? We can print this, right? SY, SO, and then you put this value, array list of get of 0. Directly also you can give this inside the print. No need to, you can store again in a new variable and do that, but I think you can just print. See, directly I can print my 0th index value or first index value or second index value or third index or 5. If I give 5 during execution, it will say you don't have the 6th value because 5 will store the 6th value. If 0 is storing the first value, 5 will store the 6th value, but we don't have it. And you have to be very careful. Since we have removed the first value, we will have only 4. So even 4 will also throw error. It will throw out of bound because we will, after removing this, we will have only 4, 0 to 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3. Only these 4 values starting indexing 0, it will allow you to access, right? So this is how array list works. So I was telling you about methods. So in array list methods, you have most widely used will be add, right? You have to give parameters. That is why it is throwing array list dot remove, right? And these are the most widely used: array list dot clear and array list dot get. Array list dot get. So these are the most widely used methods in the world of automation, in the world of core Java. Most widely used, just keep in your memory, most widely used in Java world plus automation world. Automation world. So we see, automation is a web application. Say for example, Google, right? Or this, even this Teams or Microsoft.com is an application. But that is, if I start automating Teams, right? What will happen? This Microsoft will block my IP, right? So we should not try to automate Outlook, Teams, Gmails, Yahoo mails, or whatever mails, because for testing purpose, once or twice we can execute and see and do it, but they have a mechanism all these big companies to track any automation has been done or not. If you repeatedly try to access the URL 100 times, if you repeatedly try to read the email 100 times, so they have a catch. They also have a program there in their server. Oh, some from some IP, because every IP which is accessing the Gmail server will be recorded. So they will see if this IP address is accessing my Gmail URL, again closing, logging out, again logging in, doing something, logging out. So this activity is done when I do automation. Obviously, I have to do many times, right? So there will be a logs created, and then from that log, an automation tester only, what he will do, he will see, oh, in my this logs file, I see one IP address coming many times. So block that IP. So it will have a list of, there is a block software, right? So it will put that IP in that block software. So next day onwards, or next when I execute, my program will not run. It will not let me log in. So then I have to contact the servers, the companies. I have to contact Gmail, right? I will not be able to log in. So how do I have to then raise a concern? So generally, don't try to automate Teams, Outlook, Gmail for some testing purpose. Once or twice, if you have to execute, that's fine. But don't do it where you have to log in 1,000 times. Some people know this is also a type of hacking. No, it is non-ethical hacking. It's not ethical hacking. It's non-ethical. So what they want, they students or some bad people, they will write automation programs. So log in with invalid usernames. It's called SQL injection, right? So in from the URL itself, they will pass some data, and they will try to go into the Gmail server. So repeatedly. So automation people, obviously, for some student who is learning might do it. Oh, let me try. Let me experiment. He will say driver.get gmail.com. He will enter the user ID, password, and say click login, and loop it for 200 times. So obviously, first attempt it will run, but since there is a tracking in the Gmail server, next attempt he will not be able to do it, and his IP will get blocked. So don't try to do it. So I was talking about array list and how automation people use it, right? So say for example, if I go to Hyundai, right, .com. So this is an application. Earlier it used to be a desktop application. Now they have changed it to a, see, automatically it is finding out the user is from India, and by default English language. So this is your Hyundai application, right? Now I have to capture the text here. Find a car, click to buy, connect to a service, Hyundai story, mobility solutions, contact us. This text I have to capture. How do I do it, right? In Selenium, you have options to do it. Selenium driver dot find element, and then you give some XPath or some class name or what is the property, right? Whatever property you want to use, you can use it and capture this. But how, where will you store it? You will store in a string array, right? You just store in a string array. So for the first one, you will store this. For the second one, you will store this. For third one, you will store this. Fourth one and fifth one, right? Automatically, this array list will store those values. Just you have to change the type to string, right? So array list is widely used, and it is easy also. There are so many other complex data structures very good than array list, like maps, hash maps, right? So this one has tables, but those are little complex, right? So best is array list. So many 90% of people in Java world and automation world use array list, right? I'll revert it back so that I don't have this error. So we are done with array lists, and now we'll see the differences. I already told you, I think differences would be differences between array and array list. So what it will be? array and array list. Say for example length. Sorry, length. This is fixed. What is the option here? In array list, it is dynamic. So no need to specify length during initialization declaration. Right? This I have to put it here. And then we have to. These all are the core basic differences. Right? Length, then need to specify length. Right? The second parameter. Here there is no need. Here we need, right? And then what is it? Memory. Fixed memory. It is dynamic memory allocation. Dynamic memory allocation. Right? Then we have efficiency. What is the efficiency? Efficiency is less efficient, right? It is more efficient. But time and space complexity, right? If you talk about time and complexity, which will take more time, array list will take more time. Will take more time because I'll tell you the reason. Will take less time. So what happens is, since this is a consecutive memory location allocated, it is very easy for JVM to fetch the elements. Oh, I got to hold of the first. I know if it is length 10, I can quickly give the next 9 values. But here, since the memory is haphazard, right? It is dynamic. So JVM will take more time. Why? Because it has to go to one memory location here, then the second value is stored somewhere here, the third from here, right? And fifth, fourth from here, and fifth from here, right? It is scattered all around the memory, RAM. Memory means RAM, okay? Anything which is happening, it will not go to hard disk. It will always get stored in RAM only. During execution, everything is stored in RAM until you don't say you on your mobile, you save a picture, right? When you switch on the mobile and click on that picture, that from the hard disk, the picture is brought and into RAM and stored it or displayed for the user. So things are on hard disk, but when you try to use it, RAM is used. So random access memory is used because that is faster. And then when you open the image, you until you don't again close it, it will be in RAM only. Once you close it again, obviously the RAM will get emptied, the memory will be released, and obviously our original photo which was there in hard disk will be there in the storage, right? Not in the RAM. So that's the concept of memory. So efficiency wise, efficiency, it is more efficient. Why? Because for an end user to store values, to add values, to remove values, it is very, very easy. But the time and space complexity, if you see, array has an advantage. Why? Because of consecutive memory locations allocation is there, and then that is why it is easy for the JVM. Okay, I got the hold of the first, I know that the remaining 10, it will be in the next 10 memory locations only. But for our array list, the JVM has to struggle little bit, which is very, very less for, we will not even know it. But internally, if you see, it will take little bit more, maybe a fraction of millisecond, not even millisecond, right? A fraction of millisecond will be extra for array list to traverse through the elements. So if I have to directly go to 13th, so what it has to do, it has to first find out the first element, and then it has to then traverse to the fourth element. So there will be a traversing mechanism. It has to find the root. So to go to say a family tree is there, right? So I have to go to my grandchild. Anyway, I have to find my root, where we came from, right? So the traversal will require from to find out the root, but after the root is found, it will navigate it, the which branch I have to follow, that shortest branch it will decide. So that's called the traversal branching strategy it will use, and it will find out the grandchild. So these are the core differences of
Hello.
array and array list. Yeah.
Yeah, Kavya here.
Yes, Kavya.
Actually, as an array list, we need to specify the length during declaration, right?
No, array list we don't need to. See, array list we don't need to. We just have to specify the type. In array, we have to specify the length.
Okay.
Okay, that's the core difference.
Okay, before as I said that as an array also we don't need to specify the length during declaration.
No, we have to specify. If I don't specify, see, it will throw error. What it is saying, variable must provide either dimension, expression, or any array initializes, right? Dimension we have to specify. Array, that is what is the limitation. You have to declaration, during declaration itself, our memory, I mean to say total number of elements it has to contain, we have to specify so that it starts blocking that memory, right? As soon as I create this array, right, before this assignment, int array, the name of the variable int array will get a memory blocked. The JVM will block memory for int array somewhere, but it will be consecutive. So it will block somewhere this address, and then it will give this consecutive memory locations, and then it will block that. So though we don't have any values, these many blocks will remain empty forever during execution. Remember, always during execution. So this memory will get blocked, this much memory. And in array list, it is just the simplest way. Declare it without any length, right? And then you keep adding. During whenever you require, you add, you remove, you add, you remove. It's like a rubber band, right? It is like a rubber band. So it expands when you require, right? You can just pull it, and when you don't need it, you just release it, right? Your memory is released. Your memory is, as soon as you remove this 0th index, your memory is given for free, and other resources, the microcontroller will have access to that memory now. It will allocate to some other resource if anyone is willing to use it. So that's the core difference. You don't need to specify. No need to. So here, yeah, sorry. Yeah, so you pointed it out, right? Maybe here I copy pasted, right? So here we need to specify. Here we don't need to specify. Memory is fixed. Efficiency is less. Whereas the time and space complexity, the array has an edge. It is traversal is little faster, but it is of no use, because see, when you block memory and keep it, which is getting wasted, is no use, right? In today's world, memory is the main thing, right? I cannot just keep blocking my memory. It is just a small program, right? A small program where I'm blocking 10 values. But in real life scenarios where I have to work with heavy applications, right? There are so data intensive application nowadays. That is why the big data picture has come into this, right? Our Facebook and Twitter, every second, right? Every second, Twitter and Facebook, they are getting 1 billion records added into the database. You just imagine how many records? 1 billion records per second. People just tweet, right? I am tweeting, 1,000 people in India, maybe 1 lakh people in India tweet in one second. So many countries. So when we sleep, other people are tweeting. So Twitter, every second, 1 billion records are being added to the database. So just imagine if I start using array, what will happen? All my memory in my Twitter server will just lie unused because different purposes I'll be using, right? So one of my programmer will use Twitter programmer will use for something. So his server memory is, if he uses array, he'll be blocked. Another programmer, he is using something. So it's the same server is memory is accessing database, right? So his memory will be again blocked. So that's why to overcome that, we have come with a very good, easy concept called array list. Array list is you don't need to specify any memory initially. You keep adding, so it will keep wherever empty in the whole storage space, it will find an empty location and then give one first element. Any other location, which is the shortest. So that's what the traversal will be, the shortest available memory. It is empty. Take it, give it to that second element. The next shortest again to the third element. Next fourth is shortest, it will give. So it will find a nearest. So obviously the this one in the microcontroller or the motherboard, you say, right, when it has to find out which CPU, this right, central processing unit, so that has to go to the nearest. By if I start searching memory, obviously so much empty memory is there, but it will try to find out the nearest one, so that the time taken to come back and tell the user, okay, it's ready for you to use, which will be not too much. So to reduce that, they have an algorithm. They will go and find out the nearest available memory and give it to the first one, to the second one, to the third one, to the fourth one. So different memory locations it will give, whichever is nearest. It might be consecutive, it may not be, it is random, but it is decided by the JVM. So we don't need to worry. For it in array, it will be consecutive. So that is why traversal will be faster in array, but it will be of no use because the disadvantage of memory being wasted is too high, right? So this is what an array list is. So we can store different type of, see, even array list has one more advantage is, I forgot to tell you, types of things. How much array will only store same type, right? But here can take multiple types also. I'll tell you how. Multiple type, right? So now we saw that I created an array list of integer, but integer array will not contain string. I told you, right? If I add here, see, it is throwing an array error, right? So it is saying it is not applicable for argument string. So how do I say that it is able to store multiple? So for that, this should be generic. It should be object, right? You have to give an object, user defined object. So in that scenario, what will happen? I can create my own object. One object is what? Object yesterday we studied, right? Object is which holds data and methods. So data can have name, address, photo, right? Student, remember yesterday we studied student class. So a student class has, a student will have student objects, and every student object will have data and methods, parent methods or their own methods, right? So now those objects will have different type of data. So integer age, right? And then string, what? Name, right? Then we will have float, but salary, right? Salary will be in decimal, or your attendance will be in integer. There is no 10.1 attendance, right? Salary. If he starts working as a fresher, then salary, right? Or if you talk of only students, his fees, it can be float. See the different type of data it is holding, student object. So in that scenario, you can store multiple objects also. I mean to say objects also in an array list, and that object will can hold different type of data, right? So that is generally not used in automation but from a concept point of view, you should know that an array list can hold different type of data also, but it should be an object. So if I create a class and then I create an object of that class, I can store those objects in an array list. Then I can use this, add the same. See, if I use object here and I create a class and bring that object here, right? So what will happen? I have to add list.add. If I have to do, I have to then provide the whole object structure full with my age in integer, then my name, right? Then my salary or what the fees, say 12, 123.22. So this whole structure I have to pass if I have to store this student object, right? Three things were there. So three things. So like this, we have to keep adding for all the indexes. So that's the beauty of array list. Array list is not only one data type, it can have multiple data types also, but for multiple data types, you have to create objects and then store it. So create object of student, object 1, store it. Object 2, store it. Click array list dot add object 1, array list dot add another one, object 2. Like that, create objects and pass those objects, so it will store. So that's the beauty. Any questions you have? There might be some more other categories for where we find advantages and disadvantages, but core is this. So this is, I mean to say, starting point, right? We are getting introduced to automation. Those who are already good in automation also, this is a refresher. Those who are not in the field of automation, but they have done Java and other programs, for them also it's a refresher. For those who are from non-IT, it will take some time to grasp. But the core concept of programming is you should not panic. First of all, never get scared that, oh, what I will do, int x equal to 10. What do you mean by int x equal to 10? It's just a variable. See, the concept of programming is it is a way to represent your real life scenario, right? So think in that way. If you think technically, you might find it difficult. Oh my, so many things to learn. But if you try to relate from the real life scenarios, like I have to drive a car, then the car is a class, right? It has many mechanisms inside, nuts and bolts, machines, dicky, wheels, so many things, right? Steering. But as a whole, for a driver, doesn't matter, right? He will just sit and drive. So all those can be replicated in the world of programming using Java, Ruby, Python, whatever language you use. We can replicate those as classes and objects of those classes. So the class will hold data, which is the variable and the methods, right? So the methods always work on the variables only. So M1, M2, M3, there are 3 methods in a class. All will work on whatever variables you have declared inside the class. Now when you create a subclass, that subclass or the child class will have its own variables and methods, but it can also access the parent data, which is variables and methods, right? So using inheritance, you just put a word extends, right? So polymorphism, yesterday we studied, just a revision. Polymorphism, operator overloading, method overloading, and method overriding during compile time, during runtime. Just try to, I mean to say, whenever you have time, right? You can actually practice also. You can search in Google, take a small programs, like take a small snippet and say, I want to change the type of argument in a method, int x, int y. Now I want to change it to string x and string y. Now, if you have two methods with the same two type of arguments, the two arguments, number of arguments is same, but the type is different. So which one will get called? Depending on the parameter I am sending. If I am sending two integers, it will call the integer method. If I am calling a method with two strings, it will call the method for strings. So this is what runtime polymorphism, or called operator overloading. So similarly, encapsulation. So class and object itself is a world of encapsulation. It is hiding the information from you, right? It is saying, okay, you have class with data, right? Variables and methods. Now, how do I access them? I cannot access them directly, so I have to create objects. That's what we saw today. So I was having a method M2 in my Java variable, right? See, this M2 I could not access until I created this variable, right, object, and then using that object, then only I am able to access M2. So this is called encapsulation. It is hiding the internal complexities from the user, right? So using certain way only you can access. So M2 can be accessed only using the object reference, object variable. You have to create the object of that class and access this M2 or your parent variable, parent methods, whatever it is. Any questions? I think we are done for today. Any questions you have, please let me know if you're not able to understand. We are good? Say yes, no.
Yes, sir. No questions.
No questions? Yes, all of us are understanding what we are learning here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Very good. If it is true, then I'm happy. Obviously, some people might feel little difficult, but in today's world, I think these basic programs are very basic, right? Somehow you have to know. Think that you have to learn this. So give half an hour. That's it, not more than half an hour. Half an hour, sit dedicatedly, 30 minutes, write one small program, done. Next day you are ready for the next thing. Until you don't practice, right? Until you don't write what is SYSO, what is driver, Chrome driver equal to new Chrome driver. If you don't practice, you will not get the errors. Until you don't get the errors, you will not learn. Don't get scared of errors. Errors are part of our lives. See, we make mistakes also, right? Those are also errors. We learn from those mistakes. Same way, when we encounter an error in a Java program, then we will know, oh, that error, I know how to handle it. So once you have experience with that error, next time if that error comes, you will know what the solution also is, right? So always try to experiment, then only you will learn. All Gyan thing done. Let's wipe the session now. Wrap the session, not wipe the session. Wrap the session.
Sir, if you
Yeah.
are done, can you help me configure this
Yeah. Rest of
Selenium?
all, you can drop Gangadhar. You can stay. Anyone who has any issues with setting up or who wants to know more, right? So you can stay back. Otherwise, rest you can leave. You have obviously some other stuff to do, right? The whole day is there. Thank you so much. Gangadhar, yeah, share your screen now.
Okay, is my screen visible, sir?
Yes.
Sir, first I installed this thing, Java, and then I set up that environment variable, and then I
Okay.
installed Eclipse, and
Okay.
then I clicked on file and I created, like I just watched YouTube, and I created Java project, and then I
Okay.
created class,
Okay.
and then I tried to run some basic program, but it was showing repeated error. So again, I
Yeah.
closed that complete project. So as of now,
Okay. No, go ahead, go ahead. File new class. Just do it, man. Don't worry. New class. Directly you can write a class. No need to
oh,
create a
okay,
project.
directly I can.
Yeah. Give a name.
Okay,
Test.
yeah, I can click on finish.
Select the checkbox, main checkbox.
Which one, sir?
Down, there is a main method. Without main method, go up, little up.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So without main
Okay,
method,
this
you will
one
not.
also. Okay.
Yeah, that is
Okay.
required because that's the entry point. Remember, main method is an entry point of our program. If
Okay.
the
Okay.
compiler does not find main, right, it will say, oh man, where to start from? So that's the reason main is created. It
Created.
is
Okay. All
compulsory.
three should be okay.
Yeah, but when we in future, right, when we start automation, we will I will show you the approach where main method is not required. That also is available, right? So that will come in picture later on. But for now, just to learn the Java, you need the main method. Just use that. Just click finish and write your system.out.println. SYSO control space. Inside the main method. See, you are little outside. That to do. See this to do line, double slash to do line is there, right? Green color.
Yes.
This is Java compiler or Java Eclipse tool giving you a hint. Please
Okay.
write the code here, right? Write the code here below this. Write the code below this line. All
Here.
above, below the double slash line. Always,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's the main method. SYSO
Con-
control space and write hello in double quotes. That's it. Right click and run a Java application. Save it. It's saying, okay, you have not saved after making changes. Save it.
Okay.
Okay. Just say okay.
Okay. Okay.
Just the local, yeah. Error
Proceed.
exists, say proceed. That's okay.
Error
What happened?
occurred during initialization boot layer.
Module Java project not found. Okay. So what you do, keep it like this only. File, new project, Maven project, select Maven, yeah. And then click next. Okay, where is that archetype? Let's wait. Wait. Yeah, you can click on archetype, add archetype. It is already added, or it's not added. Yeah, now it is loaded.
Can I close this?
Close
Okay.
this, yeah. Close this, and then you have to select. I told you that day, right? Maven in the filter text box, Maven hyphen archetype ARCHETYPE CHE also TYPE hyphen quick start TYPE hyphen quick start Q. See, you got it. The last one. Select that and say next. Now it will ask for group ID and artifact ID. Give anything, Selenium training, test, my project, whatever you want to give. Always use without spaces. Don't use a space in between.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, that's how the programming people will use camel case or without space.
Okay. And uppercase, lowercase fine starting.
Yeah, you get T capital you can give. It is easy for you to read also, right? Readability,
Okay.
T capital.
Okay.
And
But
Selenium spelling is also wrong. Selenium, SELE.
sorry.
Selenium. NIUM. A is not there. SELE. T capital.
Okay.
Yeah. T capital training, T capital.
Okay. Can I make it?
Yeah. So this is your standard way of doing. Now copy paste and same use it in artifact ID also. Control A. Yeah. Control C, Control V. Now go to finish.
Okay.
It will now what it is doing. See in the down right corner, 33% you are seeing, right?
Okay.
So let it be 100%. It will take some time. Sometimes it might take an hour also, but it will do it.
Okay.
So what happens is earlier we used to manually download Maven and give it to Eclipse, but now Eclipse has its own inbuilt. So it is
Okay.
going to some Maven server downloading Maven. So that is why it is taking some time. So basic dependencies also will come, JUnit and some dependencies Eclipse brings it for us by default. And the whole folder structure for your project is also getting created locally in your system.
Okay.
I saw artifact ID means artifact ID means.
Group ID and artifact ID. So now, whenever a developer develops a web application or any project, right? So in your pom.xml, right, you see, if you open pom.xml after this Maven project gets created, the first, see, pom.xml is your build file, right? Think in terms of development team, not just automation. So when a developer has to develop a application, right? So what it has to do, it has to not develop locally in his system, right? It has to develop locally and then use it in the server, and so that many people can access it, right? Facebook.com, Google, Twitter, all these applications have been developed and deployed to a server. So when you have to deploy any web application to a server, you need to build that application. What do you mean by build? Build is again the same process what you are doing now. It is building it. See, it is downloading the dependencies for that project and putting in one server folder. Same thing is happening here when you are building the project now. So whenever developer has to deploy to a server, you have to build it. So that building process is starting point is pom.xml. So pom.xml will be the Java compiler or the Tomcat server or IIS server, whoever the server is, it will go and read the pom.xml. Entry point of your building is, of your project is pom.xml. So pom.xml file is read, and in that file, if you open, you will see group ID and artifact ID. So to identify, there will be so many projects the server will be building. So how do I identify uniquely? By my group ID and artifact ID. So I give a unique name. So you give your project name itself. Say Facebook is my artifact ID, and your version will be say third version, fourth version, fifth version. So to identify the projects uniquely in the server, we have to give this artifact ID and group ID. Still doing it, right? Yeah, it will take some time. See, for I think one more person was there. For him also, it took 3-4 hours. So let it do. You can just let it, don't disconnect or anything, don't close, let it do it. And if you don't get it, then you can give me a call, right? Take the number from Chetan and you can give me a call. It will take some time because it is, see, 33%. It will take maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, depending on where the Maven is coming from. So Maven comes from very closest server, it will do fast, but sometimes that closest server will be busy. So it will go to the next closest. So next closest, next closest. So the Maven is coming from very far server, and that server is having some network slowness. So based on all these criteria, this time taken to build the project is taking longer or shorter. So it might take an hour or half an hour, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So it will take some time, let it do it. But this is this you have to do it.
Okay, okay, sir.
Okay, do it. So don't worry about it. Let me know if you take the call number, right? You can call me if you think that, okay, I'm not able to finish, this is not getting completed, but wait for an hour or two max. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, then I will call you. Okay.
Yeah. You call me in case you see any errors or you're not able to, the Maven project is not getting built, right? So then in that scenario, give me a call.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Bye. Chandrakant, you are still there or?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, you can. You have any questions? You can ask.
No, I had means I'm trying with myself. So
Okay.
if I found anything, I will reach you, sir.
Okay, so you understood array and array list today?
Yeah, I understood. I had a experience. Means I had knowledge. Means I had earlier once taken the class.
Okay, good.
I joined as a manual QA. From 1 year, I
Okay.
am doing only manual. I have bit
Okay.
knowledge about Java. It's,
Very good. Very good. Yeah. So keep trying on your own. It will
yeah,
help you. Any problems you face, you let me know.
yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Chandrakant. Thank you, Gangadhar.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Bye. Let it run. Don't close it, and
Yeah, after this, I just close the
don't
window.
close anything. Just leave your laptop. Go and do your work.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Sure, sir.
And after it gets created, you can run your program. Create a test class, copy paste the same code, create a new class, and inside that
Okay.
Maven project, inside the SRC test folder,
Okay.
okay, not the main folder.
Okay.
SRC test folder, you create a class and system.out.println. Inside the main method, you run it, right? And then
Okay.
you get the output. Okay.
Okay, sir. Sure.
Okay. Sure. Bye. Take
Thank
care.
you. Yeah, thank you. Bye. Take care.